One of the topics that certainly has been a high on the conservative agenda is that of climate change, formerly known as global warming. In the past, the issue was taken for granted, but there were some who said, hey, this doesn't add up. Certainly the senior, the original skeptic of climate control, and someone who's been vindicated on this issue, is someone human events readers know, Senator Jim Inhofe. Senator, welcome.
Well, John, nice being with you.
Nice being with you.
As few friends as I have, I go where they are, and I think they're all here.
And in Oklahoma.
And in Oklahoma.
Senator, you were clearly the very first person, at least in elective office, who not only raised doubts about global warming, now known as climate control or climate change. You said those things in no uncertain terms. I can remember you speaking at conservative luncheons.
Yeah.
What led you to first question?
Well, I'll tell you what it was, John, and you remember this well, when they had the Kyoto Treaty that was up. At that time, Republicans were a majority. I was the chairman of the subcommittee of jurisdiction, and later on the whole committee, Environment and Public Works. At that time, I assumed there was truth to this thing, that somehow this catastrophic global warming is due to man-made gases, until we started looking into it. The reason that I originally looked into it, we found out what it would cost. That was the Wharton econometrics forecast. They came out and said, if we were to pass that, or to ratify that convention, it would cost the American people $300 to $400 billion a year. Well, then along came the McCain-Lieberman bill, the Waxman-Markey bill, and all that, and of course they would cost the same thing. Cap and trade is cap and trade. Now, when I started questioning it, the scientists came out of the woodwork. And we had them all coming in saying, they've shut us out of the project, they're cooking the science. And sure enough, as I said upstairs in my speech, that the greatest day of my life may have been when ClimateGate came out, because that's right after I had asked the director of the Environmental Protection Agency what science they're going to use for their endangerment plan. And she said, the IPCC said, well, that's the United Nations. And then, of course, they were completely debunked the next day, ClimateGate.
Now, you have gotten many friends on this. Certainly we see people such as the Canadian Environment Minister essentially taking the Inhofe line on climate change. Is the tide turning on this?
Oh, absolutely. No, as a matter of fact, they actually came out with a statement in Canada. They said if we had known then what we know now, we would never have been a part of the Kyoto Treaty. Then they've gone one step further and have talked about what a mistake it is and how they're trying to stop anything from being passed in Canada. We're winning. No, let me just put it this way. When I went upstairs, I talked about the big party that the United Nations has every year. We're paying for a fourth of it, so you better enjoy it. And it happened to be in Copenhagen last year. And as I was getting ready to go to Copenhagen, I was the one-man truth squad, and I spoke right after Hillary Clinton, Obama, Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry, and they all guaranteed them that we would pass cap and trade and that we would start sending money to developing countries. I went over there and said, under no circumstances would we do that. Well, the one thing the 191 countries over there had in common is they all hated me. But we were right, and it will not happen. What's worse than passing cap and trade by legislation is doing it the way he's doing it now through regulation. Can I real quickly tell you why?
Certainly.
The bills that were cap and trade bills or the Kyoto Convention, that only went after emitters that had 25,000 tons a year of CO2. Now, if you do it by regulation, you have to conform to the Clean Air Act. And that is everybody. That's 250 tons, not 25,000 tons. That means every building, every school, every hospital, that gets everybody. So the $300 to $400 billion a year, that's not even part and not even close to what it costs if he's successful. He won't be, and that's why I wrote this book.
I couldn't wait to get to it. Senator, you've written a new book basically summing up your case against climate change. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, it's much more than that, John, because we go back to the history of it. There was something that only you would remember, because people don't have memories like you do. In 1972 at Stockholm was the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. That's where it all started. Now, back then they were talking about a big ice age that was coming. But that 15 years later, when they had their meeting, that's when they coined the phrase sustainable development. Well, that's cap and trade. That's what they're talking about. So I go back in the history of the United Nations and talk about how it all started, what the motive is behind it, and the motive, you have to wait and read the book, because it's coming out on the 28th of the month, and you'll be the first person I sit down and go over it with.
Thank you, Senator, so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.